So, welcome back on LIGHTwave Digital, and this scene will show, especially for beginners with LIGHTwave, some functions from the bullet engine in LIGHTwave. So you see here a vehicle, that's simple kit bashing, and I bring then that kit bash model in the conditions that it have a motor and it can drive, and so it have a 4-wheel motors, yeah, so every wheel have a motor. And you found then in that scene another option, and that's parts in bullet. And parts mean you can build in LIGHTwave Modeler many objects in one layer, and with the option parts, then a bullet can see that every object in that same layer, for example, that objects you see here, have his own vertices from 1 to then the end. And with that principle you see, okay, that's a separate geometry, so I use it as a separate object. Yeah, so that simple scene, okay, it's not a simple scene, it's for me a simple scene, not for beginners. I show you some from the options you can use if you work with bullet. Yeah, so if we go now in the scene himself and take a look here in the scene, you will see under the bullet, it's by the way the same in 2024.1, so I show it here with 2.19.1.5. But all the parameters are the same in 2024 about the bullet. You see here the motors, and with that motors here you can say in with what speed, yeah, drives the car or that vehicle. Let us call it vehicle, yeah. And you have it 4 times, so that's the 4 motors. If you will change the speed, then do it for all the motors. And you have here that I call it stone parts. And that's what is interesting for beginner to see how the part options work in LIGHTwave Bullet Dynamics. Yeah. So in the moment here, so that I have a quick calculation for that example, the shape is sphere, and that means that every object he can found as type parts in an object layer becomes then that collision detection, yeah, with that type sphere. And then you can play with friction, bounciness, linear damping and angular damping, and can so build and set up that. So if you load the scene and go to the first frame, to frame 0, you see what that mean, yeah. So that is one layer here and one part, yeah. And if you set it up in that way in the bullet, then you become that what you see, yeah. So what you see is what you get, and for that case I have here 3 from them, yeah, to build and bring then the car in a condition, as you can see it here. It's called SAURON steering. You found it also in the scene editor, and with that you can say in what direction the car drive, yeah. So if you want to work with the steering, you can see it here. For example, you go under modify, yeah, here steering, and then you can see that over the time here the heading parameter is animated, and that's the reason that the car, yeah, drive in the right direction. Yeah, if you want to change it, kill here the parameter on frame 1000, then the car will drive, yeah, straight ahead. Yeah. And that second steering here is a slider option. So if you would animate it with a slider over time, you can do it. Then you go on that second steering object here, go to properties, yeah, activate it, and then you see it here. So I built it only for that steering rotation in heading, yeah, for that SAURON. So we have 2 ways to animate that steering, yeah, in that way or in that way, yeah. So it's only optional. Sometimes it is good to do it, And it show also how you build a slider and in what way that slider works. Yeah. So all the other things you can found in FX tools himself. Yeah. If you go in the bullet, and yeah, that's a normal dynamic frame rate from 180. The gravity is normal. And you can see exactly if you played as preview that the mass from the object here, from my collision object, all what is here, yet here, that light blue is as collision parts from the object, in what way the collision parts from that object bounce and all the other object out of the way. Yeah, and in what way it works. And that makes sense to study, to understand in what way you can bounce. Yeah, for example here, if the car comes in contact with enough mass, then he stop, and the reason is also all the objects here have a mass, and also the vehicle have a mass, and that means that these two masses play with another. Yeah, so that's simple physics. And if that objects here have more mass as a car, then that stops the car. Yeah, so that's a little bit that what it also show about the physics in that scene. Yeah, so it makes sense if you are a bloody beginner in LIGHTwave to study also in what way the car setup is done. I showed sometimes in other scenes, yeah, with other cars, with other four-wheel cars. And it's all times the same principle. If you have that basic setup with that four wheels, and then you can use it and for every from your cars. It's all times the same principle. Yeah. So would say have fun with that scene, and yeah, if you have questions or something like that, yeah, wrote it on in the channel, yeah, as a comment. And by the way, I use here the part function sphere so that it fast calculate. You can also use, for example, convex pieces or mesh or something like that. But then the calculation time for the bullet is longer and you become another interaction with the car. Yeah, and the reason is that we have here that ball as a collision object. Yeah. So okay. Then yeah, have fun and later. Bye. Have a nice time.